Good afternoon and welcome to another chapter of Chairman Chats here in town of Southbridge. I'm Chairman Jack Jovan of the Southbridge Town Council, bringing you another 2021, our first show of the year, and way to kick it off here today. I'm here with our new town manager, Michael McCall. Michael, welcome.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for having me here.
So, Michael, it seems like you've been here forever based on all the work that's been accomplished in a short period of time, but you've only been here 4 months. And we wanted to take this opportunity for you to introduce yourself to the residents of town. It's been tough. So, welcome. So, first off, your thoughts on your tenure here in Southbridge in the short time that you've been here, and what brought you here and what your background is.
Okay. We'll start in reverse order. We'll go with background. So, for those who don't know me, I started out many years ago getting involved in my hometown in we had representative town meeting. And that led me on my journey to become an elected official and appointed official. I spent 9 years on the select board and also in my town's finance committee. I was a software engineer in my early days, but getting involved in government and having had a grandfather who worked as the budget and personnel director for a large city, the city of Cambridge, I wanted to get more involved. I went to law school and I served for quite a while as a municipal attorney and with local governments, and that led me to my decision to make the swap into municipal management. Prior to coming to Southbridge, I had been an assistant town manager in the town of Chelmsford, which is about 35,000 people. I got to the point in my career where I was ready to step up and take a leadership role in my own community. And at that time, Southbridge came open. I knew some people who were familiar with Southbridge, and they said there would be a good opportunity for somebody who was making the transition from an assistant management role to a management role, and that there were some unique opportunities here to help the town. And you're well aware of them. I'm sure most of the folks watching are aware of them. You know, you're going to be transitioning to taking care of your own curbside trash collection, potentially a new fire station. We also have the ongoing unique situation with the pandemic, which has presented unprecedented fiscal and health challenges. As you know, we're working on the vaccine distribution up at the Armory. So these are all really great opportunities to work together with the town leaders here to demonstrate the management and leadership skills that I have. I benefit from learning, and the town benefits from the leadership and the training that I have. And it was what drew me to Southbridge.
Yeah, and you came at a time where we had a lot of things that had been left and lingering in the town government type of opportunities. Is it everything that you thought it would be when you got here?
Pretty much. As you know, I've worked a couple of different towns over the years in my capacity as a lawyer and as the assistant town manager. They've had some different backgrounds. I've had some different experiences which I can apply here. I speak okay Spanish. The interesting the aspect about Southbridge is you have a significant Latinx population. I've actually had an opportunity to meet some of the folks in the community and use some of my Spanish actually here at Town Hall. So it's the diversity of the community, the background of the community, which was interesting. It's a lot different than the last town I worked in, but it allows me to draw on those experiences from the other communities I worked at and see what I can bring from there to help you folks, but also to learn things that I never experienced before in those other communities. So there's a lot of opportunity, mutually beneficial opportunities for the town and for me to solve these problems.
So as a resident of town, we're always looking at the different projects that come on, and a lot of those, again, were kind of stuck, but now we see some progress in Southbridge, and I'd like to talk to you about the Wells Middle School. You were able to facilitate making sure that got through because it was kind of stuck. Mm-hmm. We had been waiting a long time. How's that project going so far? What your thoughts are? The building was sold, correct?
Yep. Yes, it was. It was sold back at the end of the year. I came on, as you know, in early September, and there was a list of things that were in transition or needed to be started. We had a lot of contracts and projects that were coming to an end that really needed to be picked up. And, you know, I picked up the baton on quite a few of those. And one of them was the Wells School, and it struck me a little bit odd that, you know, it was so close to being wrapped up. Why couldn't we just expedite this. I wound up talking with Attorney Caprera, who works here for the town as town council. But I also realized if I just picked up the phone and talked to the principals in that project, one of them being Relish, and said, hey, what do we need to get this done? And we talked about what needed to be done and said, let's make this happen. We sat down with our building department and we met with the fire department, the inspections over there, and said, how can we expedite this? We got state fire marshal office involved, and we found the bottlenecks in getting all the inspectional requirements met so that they could get some temporary permits, and a letter saying that they would be good to go if the transaction happened, and it allowed them to move forward with their financing. And within, probably 6 to 8 weeks of my arrival, we were able to get that executed and the transaction done. And as you see when you drive down Main Street, you see that they're working on it. They got right on top of it after we got all of those things in place. So, that's welcome news to the community. It's going to be opportunities to bring new people in the community. You're also going to take that building that wasn't generating tax revenue, which should be generating tax revenue once people are buying those as residents. So, and there's also money that was brought into the town from the sales. So there's a lot that can come from that we can turn around and utilize that revenue going forward, and those one-time monies could be used in the future depending upon what our needs are. So it was coming through the door, nice to have one of these early accomplishments, and that was one of them. So,
and as we go forward in this, again, obviously challenges for 2021, we're starting out again with this COVID-19 pandemic. What are some of the fiscal issues that you think might come forward for the year, or where we should be thinking about?
So I recently issued my budget letter to all the department heads, and I stressed level service budgeting. I did a lot with finances in my previous community, and I like to look at numbers. It comes from my computer science and math background. We wound up essentially being level funded in state aid last year. The community typically gets, on average, 45% of its revenue from state aid. So we have to keep an eye on what's going to happen at Beacon Hill. So what we need to do on our side, so we don't put the burden on the residents, is we have to look at ways to increase the commercial tax base, because we have roughly an 80-20 split here in the community. So we want to increase that. But at the same time, we have to work within our means here at Town Hall. So again, level service, I told people, unless something was absolutely necessary, we're not going to open any new positions. We've left some that were unfunded from the previous year so that we can live within our means, and then work on other projects such as, trying to work with some of the businesses here to expand. We're looking at maybe getting additional liquor licenses so that we could have restaurants with liquor licenses to generate additional local receipts and improve that commercial tax base. So, being cautiously optimistic, I think we'll be able to get through this fiscal 22. We should be good for the remainder of fiscal 21. Fiscal 22, you keep your fingers crossed, the level of service budgets, and trying to improve what we can in the community in terms of increasing the business tax base. We should be able to squeak through, I think. And then hopefully by then, we get everybody vaccinated and we have herd immunity and life can get back to normal. Then we can look at refilling some of those positions that we've kept vacant, and in order to save money and to save the remaining positions in Town Hall. Then we can start to look at whether how we'll refill those. But that won't be till probably fiscal 23.
Yeah, and you talked about the vaccination, and we have a local center here, the emergency dispensing site that was set up with a partnership with Harrington Hospital. And for the public, I think it's obvious that we should emphasize that we're on top of the curve. Is that correct?
Yes. I was there, and you, Chairman Jovan, as well as other town leaders, the day that representative from the Department of Public Health came about a month ago, and was, to say duly impressed is almost an understatement. They couldn't believe how well organized the town of Southbridge in partnership with Harrington Hospital was. Because when you walk up into that facility, there's already areas set up for individual stations. They have partitions. We've worked with Harrington Hospital, Harry Lemieux and Ed Moore to ensure that we had high-speed internet. They have registration stations. And just yesterday, I was providing the website to several people. We're now a site for statewide first responders, law enforcement personnel. They're sending them to Southbridge because we have our act together. And a lot of that planning was done well before I got here, but I like to think now that we've been here as a team, we're working forward and to increase our capacity. I know Andy Pelletier today was they're looking for additional staff because they think they're going to be able to increase the number of people they can put through that facility on a daily basis so we can get more people vaccinated. And through that, we'll be at some point looking at our neighbors to get additional resources and volunteers, some of their EMTs, nurses, other volunteers to help us staff that site. And at the same time, I'm reaching back up to the state to say, hey, because we're doing so well and because you're relying on us, you need to help us. So I think the partnership that we have locally is working. Now we need the partnership at the state level to help us out and recognize the achievements that we've made already here.
And that's one of the things as chairman, I truly appreciate you for the way you approach things, in that it's not no, we can't do it, it's we can do it, let's see how we can facilitate it. Is that the type of philosophy that you had in your prior commitment and what you try to want to get to a sense here in Southbridge?
Yes, I mean, I think if you roll back on the interviews we did, I liked a good challenge. I said that, and I like to find a solution. And again, I think it's a little bit of the background I had as an engineer. People present you problems, and you like to find a solution, and that comes from collaboration. On some of the issues, we're going to be presenting a pavement management plan tomorrow night. I worked with our DPW director, Heather Blakely, on that, but we also involved Karen Harnoys, our finance director, and Melissa Zawadski, our treasurer, in the discussion. And having all those people at the table in exchange of ideas, sometimes you get something that you weren't thinking about, but once it's shared by the other member at the table, you can come up with a better plan, a better process. And I've enjoyed getting to know everybody here at Town Hall and their skill set and working together with them on these projects.
So you talked about the pavement management, and this program will come out after your presentation. So overall, taxpayers are always complaining about roads. We have the issues with the schools. We have a fire station that has to be built. How do you balance all of that? And I know it's probably too early because you have a lot of planning to go and event. And then people say your taxes are too high. What are your thoughts on how do you balance all that and your approach to solving these problems, not in the short term, but the long term?
So it's a great question, a complex question, and I don't think Southbridge is unique in having to tackle so many different problems, because right now every community is struggling to figure out what to do in the pandemic. But take the pandemic away, these are still problems that are facing this town and others. And it's trying to find creative solutions that will allow you to fund these projects, take care of, you take a triage approach, what has to be done, what should be done, and what's nice to have. And then, balancing those. One of the things you'll hear, and people will have heard if they see that, the pavement management presentation is, there's a lot of things coming down the line. We have to look at not only pavement management, what to do about the fire station, what to do about curbside, what to do about stormwater, and what to do about some of the repairs to the school. And having been through some of these in my prior communities, I understand, and as a taxpayer, there's fatigue that's going to happen, whether it's through the ballot box or when they open up that tax bill. So, how can we do this? How can we soften the impact? Coming here, you folks here had approved marijuana, the marijuana retail. My other community didn't do that. Now, we have 4 host agreements in place. We've yet to see $1, but I have met with all of the retail operations that have the host agreements, and the vast majority should be up, and 3 out of the 4 should be running by the end of this calendar year. That will slowly bring in some additional revenue to the town. I know some people view it as controversial, but it's a local option tax, just like you would with a meals tax or a hotel tax. And And some of the articles that you can find online, whether it be about Massachusetts or a state like Colorado, year-over-year sales have continued to increase, and despite the pandemic, those numbers have continued to increase. So that is revenue that the town otherwise wouldn't have to apply to some of these projects, which would offset the burden on the homeowner. And again, unlike other communities, we have an 80-20 split. That means 80% of the tax burden is shouldered by the residents of this town because it's primarily a residential town. So unless we can increase the business base, we have to be mindful of how the taxes are going to hit the residents. So my goal while I'm here, for the next few years, the foreseeable future, is to try and find ways to utilize monies, much like the revenue coming from marijuana, but also look at how we can improve our economic base. And one of the things I've talked to staff about is, turning Southbridge into a destination. You have a lot of great amenities here that I think that can be built upon. You look at, there's the old rail line. If we turn that into a rail trail, let's get some additional special liquor licenses, bring in some restaurants, a microbrewery. Mr. Norton's looking at developing the innovation center to add some bike trails and so the opportunity to put a boat ramp in there. I foresee people coming to Southbridge, taking advantage of those amenities and wanting to spend more time. You look at the new zoning bylaw overlay districts that are going to allow for a live, work, play model. People are rethinking what they want to do in light of the pandemic. Do they want to live in an urban environment? If we start putting these things in place now, as people's attitudes change based on the pandemic where they want to live, if they could be in Globe Village living in a refurbished mill building where they could do some retail on the first floor, go to work on the second floor and live in the third floor, and then at the end of the day go ride on a bike trail, what a great place to come and visit. And then at the end of the day visit a microbrewery. I think those are all possibilities, and those are all things that I talk to staff about. Let's see how we can do those in the next few years. So those are the types of things that I think stir economic growth, that helps bring in the revenue, that helps lessen the burden on the taxpayers. So again, to go back to your initial question, having worked in different communities, I'm still a taxpayer, and I hope to be a taxpayer at some point in Southbridge when the real estate prices come down. Understand what's going on and the ratio of residential to commercial. So, I want to work to make this town more vibrant, make it a destination, and help the residents.
So, your predecessors used to always call us a poor town, which always used to offend me because, okay, we have challenges, but to say that we're just poor and we can't do these things, you see this as an opportunity, though.
Oh, yes, very much so. I mean, every town has its own unique issues and qualities. My family started out as immigrants. They lived in Boston and Somerville and Cambridge. And like many other people, I grew up in a neighborhood where it was primarily duplexes when I was a young kid and then moved out to the suburbs. But I've worked in communities similar to Southbridge in the past. There's always unique situations and challenges. One of the largest employers that you had left decades ago, and it's reinventing yourself essentially. And we get more state aid than some other communities based on the demographics, but you work with your challenges. I wouldn't say any community is any better than any other community, or you have the hand you dealt with. You want to make the best of it and improve it. So that's what I look at. It's really whether you're looking at the cup half empty or half full, and I'm more of a half full guy, and I want to work to fill it all the way up.
So a sense of optimism that yes, we can do it as long as we all work together.
Yes, very much.
As far as you came from a board of selectmen type of form of government,
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you transition to this town council manager type of environment, given the fact that it's all remote too?
Yes.
It gives its own challenges, but...
Well, I've spent most of my life having been an elected official for 9 years and then working under the Board of Selectmen. The transition hasn't been too difficult. You get all your cues from the charter and the bylaws, and my working relationship with the 9 councilors has been good. Before I came on board, I made an effort to reach out to every one of them, as one can with COVID. We all talked via telephone. Some people I did Zoom. And I try and generate emails as regularly as I can, updating the counselors what's going on. By the time people will see this, they'll know that our meeting this week was on a Thursday night because we had a technical problem with our website. But those are the types of things. I send emails to you folks right away, letting you know what the problem is, what our expected solution time is, and then anything else that might be an issue. Counselors send me emails. We talk on the phone, so they're letting me know what's going on in the community. So it's working pretty well, that relationship. And I would also say, prior to it getting colder, and when I had some time in the afternoon, people will see me. I like to take a quick walk with my phone and my earpiece, but I also try and visit some of the shops to the extent I can. And I've met some of the business owners, a handful of them, and try and talk to some people while I'm out. I've visited the fire station, talked to different people. So I want people to know who I am too, and that we're approachable. And that all comes back to your question about working with the council. I want to be part of the community. I want people to feel that I'm approachable. I want to have that open door policy, as I talked about in my interview, not only with the council, but with residents. I try and return every phone call. There may be an individual or two who's watching and says, "You haven't called me back yet." That doesn't mean I won't. I'm working on getting information for folks. But the relationship so far has been good working with the council, and I look forward to working with them for the future, foreseeable future.
As we do as well. And again, you came into a time where you had a lot of things on the plate, and you really didn't have a ease into kind of job. It was hit the ground running. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, and I knew that coming into it, and there is no real good time. People said, "Well, what made you do this?" There's never a good time, and most people know that from their own personal experience. You never know when an opportunity is going to come. You can lay everything out and everything planned, and life's going to throw you a curveball. And this opportunity presented itself. It was a great opportunity, but I also knew that you needed somebody who was going to hit the ground running. And I think I said when I came for my interview that, given the skill set I have, I think I can hit the ground running. And, I made a point in the first week or so to sit down and spend an hour or so or two with each department head to get a good idea of what their budget was, what their personnel situation was, what their goals were, so that I understand what we could do. I met with you and other council members, and then it just started pouring over everything, and the staff here has been great. Yvonne Tortis, Cheryl Ryan, and Kim Ferrin, brought me up to speed in a lot of issues in the personnel matters. So again, it comes back to the team, and I go down quite regularly and walk through the halls and visit the various departments, and but it has been hit the ground running. But that was something I was used to. I've more than one time in my career I've jumped into something and had to hit the ground running. So no stranger to it, and I knew what I was getting into. So.
Yeah, and so far it's been a great entry for us. On the council side, we've gotten a lot of good information, a lot of great information, seen a lot of progress in a short period of time. And as we wrap up, the last question that we'll have for today anyway, and I'm sure we'll have you back in the next month or so and see where we're going, maybe come back and talk about that whole pavement management plan and what our thoughts are on that, and then get into the budget season. The issues with the schools. I've had Dr. Villar here. He's been a great person, very transparent. We had meetings with him. How do you see your relationship with the receiver? Again, the predecessor really didn't have a relationship with the receiver. How do you see your position and the receiver, because it's under state guidance, to make sure that we come up with an exit plan on how to come out of receivership? How do you see your role in that?
So before I joined here, I did make a point of reaching out to Dr. Villar. The two of us talked before I actually assumed the position in early September. And since I got on board, we've been talking almost every other week. We have a scheduled Zoom call, and we talk about the issues that are facing both sides and our mutual issues. Now, we haven't had a conversation per se about the exit strategy, but we've been talking a lot more about what we can do together collaboratively to help one another. We routinely, I share information about the grants that are coming up, make sure we're not competing against one another. We've talked recently about could we, leverage our shortfall with regard to plow drivers by utilizing them. So we've had some great conversations to see how we can work better together. We're going to be talking about the budget pretty soon, and we've started initial discussions about some other probably more contentious topics, but there was a facilities management plan that was done previously that talked about trying to integrate some of the facilities management from the DPW and the school side, and we've broached those. We've talked about how can we better leverage our human resources by sharing the resources to ensure that nothing's getting lost. So I think we're on the right track to working together. We get along well, Dr. Villar and I, and the conversations have been positive. So I have, again, I'm very optimistic that we're going to be able to work together. And my sense, talking to him, he's doing a great job from what I can see, and I know that he's committed to getting us out of the situation over in the school department. And I'm confident together we'll work to the betterment of the community.
Yeah, I think that's a goal everybody has. Is we talk about it. My belief has always been residents want good roads, public safety, and a good school system. And taxes that are reasonable. And I think together we will accomplish those goals.
And that dovetails into my conversation before about a destination. If you look at a lot of articles out there, and I've read a variety of them, most people's most important asset is their home. So when it comes to taxes or anything you do in a community that's going to affect the value of that home, people come out to vote. That's how they express their interest. But people also move based upon those things that you talked about, the quality of life, the amenities in the schools. So if you want to get people to invest and relocate their business or the destination, one of those showcase pieces has to be your school system. So I agree. And working together with Dr. Villar to help strengthen the schools, it will go a long way to helping the town overall.
Yeah, and I think he's been here 3 years, which is a feat in itself because of stability. And now with you here, I think the future looks bright for the town.
Thank you.
So anything else you want to add before we say goodbye for today?
I just stressed everybody to wear your mask and social distance. I mean, we're doing everything that we can here at Town Hall. We're temporarily closed, as you know, to the public. We're monitoring the situation. We have great people out there in our fire, police, DPW that are out every day. We have people that are coming into work and being responsive to the needs. But we're also mindful of our employees. The risks of COVID, we're trying to take care of everybody and still deliver quality and effective services, and just remind the public, to do their part, and together we'll get through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, we're going to bring this segment of Chairman Chats to an end. So again, Jack Jovan, Chairman of the Town Council, here with our new town manager, Michael McCall. We look forward to further discussion with the community about what's going on here in Southbridge. And I'd like to thank Southbridge Cable TV for allowing me to sit here and bring these programs to you. Enjoy and be safe, and please, again, wear your mask, wash your hands, and let's get through this pandemic. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you for having me.